The subcommittee will come to order. We have a total of 9 bills before us and a host of witnesses, so I promise to keep my opening statement brief. 2 of the 9 bills before us today are bills I introduced earlier this year. The first is H.R. 631, the Service Members' Choice and Transition Act of 2013, which I introduced with Ranking Member Takano. This bill is meant as a follow-on to the Vow to Hire's HERO Act that would improve the Transition Assistance Program, or TAP as we call it, for separating service members. The VOW Act made TAP mandatory for all but a very few service members, and since the enactment of that bill, the services and the administration have nearly completed an overhaul of the TAP program for the first time in decades. From what I have heard from veterans and my staff, though, the new curriculum is much improved, but more can be done. DoD has created several tracks or courses for service members that focus on some of the most common transition paths the service members take when separating. These tracks focus on the following areas: education, VOTEC, employment, and entrepreneurship. These tracks are meant to provide in-depth knowledge on these topics and allow service members the choice in picking training that best fits their transition goals. Unfortunately, that option is not included in the mandatory portion of TAP. For example, if a veteran was planning to go to college and use their post-9/11 GI Bill, the education track would help them decide whether they are ready for post-secondary education and, if not, how to get ready. This will allow them to determine what should be their education or training goal, what schools would be best to meet their education or training goal, how to complete the admissions process, and finally, how to finance their education or training. As you can see from this slide on the screen, the post-9/11 GI Bill benefit can provide over $270,000 over 4 years at one of the most expensive schools in the country, in this case, Stanford University. If taxpayers are going to provide this generous benefit, it is our duty to ensure that our military men and women and our veterans know how to make the best use of this benefit. As I said, from everything we have heard from DoD, and as they will shortly testify to as well, they will not require that these tracks be part of the mandatory portion of TAP. As a non-mandatory option, service members could take the optional track only if their supervisor would allow them to miss more days of work or if they don't meet the still undefined career readiness standards. Regarding these standards, how could we expect a commanding officer to reasonably determine whether a service member's individual transition plan accurately reflects the attainable objectives given the infinite variations in a member's life? Therefore, I believe that H.R. 631 would fill that gap by making the optional tracks of the mandatory portion of TAP, while making the optional tracks part of the mandatory portion of TAP, while giving the services the flexibility to meet these requirements. As you can see on the screen, the model I'm proposing provides each service member with an executive summary of each track, followed by time to take the track of their choice, along with the classes on VA benefits and service-specific separation counseling. The model shows 5 days, but it could be done in 7 or 8 days, whatever it takes to get the job done. It's important to note that this model is based off the system that the Marines have been piloting with great success for some time. My second bill, H.R. 1316, seeks to codify the roles and responsibilities of Directors of Veteran Employment and Training, or DVETs as they're known. DVETs are federal employees who represent the Veterans Employment and Training Service on the state level and whose primary responsibility is to oversee the DVOPs and leavers who are funded by the Jobs for Veterans State Grant Program. Curiously, Title 38 contains no specific responsibilities for the DVETs. It only says that there shall be DVETs and assistant DVETs. The performance of the DVOPs and LVERS programs continues to be a topic of concern for this committee. And by codifying the responsibilities of DVETs, we will strengthen their position with the state to improve the performance of the DVOPs and leavers, something I am sure that we agree must happen. With that, I'm happy to yield to the ranking member, Mr. Takano, for any opening statement he may have.